They usually have to pay their own airfare to and from a disaster area and make their own arrangements for food and accommodation once there. There was no mention of volunteer ministers in this year's Haiti disaster per Scientology's submission. There was an awful lot of negative media surrounding their presence there. The Red Cross website at that time had a post begging unqualified people not to go and not to send things but just donate money. Ronnie Broman, former president of Doctors of the World, said the country is still in an emergency phase, so all persons who arrive from abroad without qualifications are obstacles to humanitarian aid. Yet Scientology sent approximately 400 volunteer ministers to Haiti, many almost immediately, where they became a burden on already limited resources per reports at that time. After 9/11, 2 days after that tragedy, a Scientology group calling themselves National Mental Health Assistance got Fox News to run Scientology's free phone number for 5 hours at the bottom of their screen. Fox ran this apparently in the belief that this was the official outreach hotline. It was removed after an irate intervention from the real National Mental Health Association. Note the difference in the final words of these groups. Scientology called theirs National Mental Health Assistance. The president of the National Mental Health Association said, "The public needs to understand that the Scientologists are using this tragedy to recruit new members. They are not providing mental health assistance." So the dilemma I believe we face as Australians is how to ensure tax-exempt groups are truly deserving of such. And we look to you, the committee, as our elected representatives to navigate this minefield. I personally don't envy you that job.
Thank you.
In conclusion, I'd like to ask if I may table my formal submission, which contains further data and arguments for a public benefit test of some sort, and I thank the committee for taking the time to listen to us this morning.
Thank you. You may is it the wish of the committee that the submission be tabled?
Yes.
Please table. Who is next?
I'll take the next one, thanks.
Okay, Kevin.
I'm not sure that a public benefits test is the only right model, because I'm concerned particularly about the collateral damage to many well-meaning charities in the form of red tape, because I feel it could be quite burdensome, especially for very small ones. In my personal experience, I was a Scientologist for 26 years. I haven't found anything charitable about the Church of Scientology. Scientology does deliver a very expensive psychotherapy that does not deliver on its broad promises. It also pays the existing customers 10 to 15% of the total spend of any new customers that they bring in. It's called a commission. This is a highly efficient sales model. Now, should a customer complain that they didn't get what they paid for, they're put through a thorough investigation as to what was out with them that caused the failure. This is at their own expense. Sometimes they will redo the failed level, also at their own expense. When we went to the consumer watchdog, it was simply beyond their brief to act on our behalf. We made many calls and we ran into dead ends on every aspect. In short, there's no recourse. While I feel the CFS and many others, such as the Agape ministries, do not deserve tax-exempt status, I think it's been raised in many of the other submissions that the vehicle to revoke this is already in law existing today. I'd like to see a special purpose ombudsman appointed to facilitate and police such groups and to monitor the behaviour of such groups. I'd also like to table my own submission, modified, to the committee.
Is the committee happy to accept the submission?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'd like to thank you for your time.
Next is Mr. Anderson.
If that's okay.
If you wish to be, please go ahead.
So bear with me, I've had to change things a little bit because we're not on camera. So my name is James Anderson.
Camera, and we have to address the term of reference.
Yeah, I understand.
Yes.
That's fine. My name is James Anderson. I thank you for inviting me today.
Can I just add, you are protected by parliamentary privilege in this forum, though.
Okay.
You can't be sued or taken to court over anything you say while under parliamentary privilege.
Thank you. The situation of possibly applying a harm-benefit test across religious groups and charities has come about because of allegations directed at some groups, one in particular that I was associated with over many years, over 25 years in fact. I'm of the understanding that my submission was received by the Economic Senate Committee, but I was not notified as to whether it was either accepted or rejected. So in light of that, I would like to retable that today, and I'll make that available at the end of my opening address.
Just on that point, Mr. Anderson, all submissions received are accepted. We do not reject submissions.
Okay, thank you. All right. Then.
We sometimes decide whether or not it's in the public interest to put them on the web, however.
All right. Well, I'll assume that it's there then. In the opening pages of that submission, I stated I didn't feel that such a test was the best way to go about addressing this situation. There are a large number of extremely worthwhile charitable organisations, and they do fantastic work. And I don't think that they should be punished because of the allegations levelled at a particular organisation of which I was a member for 25 years. Some of these charitable groups have been in existence for much less time than Scientology. Those charitable groups, their good works are widely known and used. People on the street in the community can, I'm sure, identify those particular groups. Those same people want to give their support. They know it is good to have their tax dollars going towards support for those groups. And I like that my tax dollars go to support such groups. You know, beyond the wording of documents, definitions and legalese, all of which are important, of course, charitable works should be able to be observed. They either exist or they don't. That is really the only valid test. One should be able to clearly identify groups who do good works because they see the results. If one cannot then see those results, that particular group should be deemed to be highly suspect and should be treated as such. I guarantee if you ask the same taxpayer what good works Scientology does, and what are they known for, they would actually struggle to give you an answer. I know I do. And that was one of the things I found actually very difficult to reconcile in my association with Scientology over 25 years. I in fact found them to be quite self-serving. They're not really directed at the external environment. I couldn't go along and see a house that had been set up for the purposes of housing the homeless. I actually do in our business, I do a lot of work for organisations that provide Bernardos, provide charitable homeless situations for people that are trying to get themselves off the street. So I know I can actually go along and check these places out, and it exists. And that was one of my main objections. So I actually do think that however it's done, something needs to be done, and I believe that something can be done about groups that receive a tax benefit because they deem themselves to be a religion, yet the final analysis is, can you actually see it in the environment? Can you actually physically go and partake in that? And if you can't, then it should be treated as highly suspect. How it's to be done, I really don't know. Maybe the harm-benefit test is the best way to go about it. Maybe it isn't, but there's a lot more better minds than mine that could be applied to this, and I think there will be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Ms. Underwood?
Yeah, hi. Firstly, I'd like to emphasise that the argument regarding this proposed tax amendment being a threat to religious freedom just isn't one. With the 1983 High Court decision, the criteria for what constituted a religion was greatly broadened. The proposed tax amendment addresses the eligibility of religious organisations gaining tax exemption based on their religious status. The issue of, in my mind, the issue of tax exemption has nothing to do with religious beliefs, practices or observances. The general group of adherents to Scientology and to other religions may well be religious, and there's no argument on that. But this doesn't equate to their organisation being deserving of tax exemption. In earlier times, tax exemption was granted to religious bodies, and this is, as far as I can tell, because it was apparent to society that they had a public benefit and were giving back to society at large. Prior to the 1983 High Court decision, religious organisations were given tax-exempt status because it was generally recognised that through their charitable works they did have a broad public benefit.